Thank you. So we run different children's services where we look after vulnerable young people aged 16 and above, usually up to 16 to about the age of 21 or 25. But also we run businesses where we are supporting vulnerable young children in children's residential homes. So looking at younger children, they could be either age 8, 10, all the way up to 18. So I've been doing that for the last 10 years. And I like to consider myself as an entrepreneur, mentor, and a leader. And lucky enough, I've been that has been recognized, and I've been nominated as Entrepreneur of the Year by the African Business Chambers, which is in London next Thursday. I was actually saying that if only I had a bit of the Zano strategy where I can actually make sure that I can win, it might be good. So who knows, it might happen. But I also support all those that are looking to get into business as a business advisor, business mentor. So I've got various clients at different stages in their journey, whether they're just looking to start up their businesses in children's services, or maybe they've been supporting adults, vulnerable adults, doing dom care, or any other different sector, but maybe they now want to branch into children's services. So if you do need some mentoring, we've got various business packages, mentoring packages that I can support you with. So children in care, just to quickly give a summary, what you're looking at is you've got families where it might be mum and dad, or it might be stepdad, and it might just be that there's alcohol abuse, there's substance misuse, or maybe mental health issues, or a very serious illness that means that the children that are being looked after in that family setting, local authority now have to step in because either there is neglect or there is risk to that child. So those children are children that come into care. Just as a bit of a multiple choice question here, how many children do we think are being supported by local authorities nationwide? And I'm going to be using 2023 statistics here, but just who thinks they know the answer? Not quite. 83,840. And this is looking at the statistics in March 2023. But however, as you can see, that's actually an increase of 2% from 2022's figures. This is what was really interesting for me, that you've actually got 33,000 children that are coming into care in that year 2023. So what that means is that the children that could no longer stay with their families either had to go into fostering, had to go into children's residential homes, or had to go into 16 plus provision. That was the increase that took place in 2023, and that was a 6% increase from 2022. Something even more interesting. How does the profit of 300 million sound?
If it gets into your pocket.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, yes, if it gets into your pocket, how does it sound? 300 million profit. It's great, isn't it? The only thing I must say is that these are like the top 4 providers nationwide. That's the profit that they made. But if you were to get, I don't know, 10% of that, 5% of that, 30 million, 15 million, it's not too bad, is it? Okay. So we can actually get into this sector and try and look at making money. But I want to put a disclaimer on this because it's not about making money though. If you see those pictures that we had earlier on where I was showing you about the birthday celebration that we had for those 4 young boys, they were really, really touched. All 4 of them. And they were saying to me, Webster, you know, this is something that we'll never forget. And another very interesting story, if I was actually to go back to those pictures, one of those boys who is a staff member was actually in one of our homes 5 years ago. He's a young Eritrean boy who came to us when he was 17, And when he was talking to me, I was saying, Webster, I want to be a social worker. And so we've always kept in touch. He's doing well in his college. He's really improved his English tremendously. And now he's coming and working part-time whilst he's at college. And he's one of the boys that was in the pictures there, supporting now the other young boys who are about to leave our provisions. So it's about making impact. And trust me, when that happens, the local authorities will come running to you. And that 300 million that you are seeing, that 5% that you want, that's when that can now happen. So it's not just all about profit, but the money is there to be made. But what are the barriers, maybe, to us actually being able to get into this sector? I'm going to touch on three key ones. Startup capital. Second one, recruiting and retaining qualified staff. And Ofsted standard regulations that they're too stringent to actually be able to adhere to. A lot of my mentees, when they initially come to me, they're really saying, you know what, we really hear that Ofsted is just another beast. Those who are actually Ofsted, we've got here Nyasha. I'm sure you can attribute to the scrutiny that happens when you're dealing with Ofsted and others that are involved with Ofsted. But you know what? Although it might be tightly regulated, that means when you get it right, you can actually build a very sustainable business and you can actually do well. So where you might see a barrier, that is actually an opportunity to actually be able to capitalize on. And we'll just touch on how you can do that very quickly. So startup capital. How much do I need? So children's services, there's quite a lot of different areas that you could go into. Some of you might be keen on maybe setting up a nursery. That's also part of children's services. Some of you might be keen on a fostering agency, considering to do that. But the two main ones that I'm going to be speaking on is children's residential homes and supported accommodation provisions. And obviously, the main question I do get asked is how much does it cost for me to actually start up this business? So what is the startup capital that's needed? Between about 120 to 140,000. So this lady here was quite close. Why do we think that's so expensive? Why do we think that? Right now it's taking almost a year for your home to get registered with Ofsted. But before you actually register your home, you need to have employed your manager. And your managers, you're looking between 50 to 70K. So that's a very big cost there. And then obviously you've got other costs in relation to the property that you're going to secure, the planning permission that's needed there, or does it already have the adequate planning permission? Any renovations you're going to have to make to the home. But also, even when you do get registered, it doesn't mean that next day you're going to have a child in the house. It won't be like that. You might wait a month, 2 months. And even when you got your child, it doesn't mean that that next month, the local authority are going to pay you. Some might take 4 or 5 months to then pay you. But your staff, they don't want to hear those stories from you. They just want to get paid. Okay, so the next one. So now we're going to look at 16 plus. So we're looking at sort of teenagers, 16 and 17-year-olds. Sometimes you may keep them slightly longer to maybe, 6 or 7 months after they've turned 18. So how much do we think we need to set up that type of provision? So you're looking between about 40 to 50,000 approximately. And once again, this also depends on sort of the size of the particular supported accommodation home that you're looking at wanting to set up. So these are some of the startup capital, and this shouldn't be a barrier to you. It's a challenge that's being presented to you. Anything in business, there's always going to be an element of risk, and there's always going to be capital involved. You can go into partnerships, business partnerships. You can ask people to come and invest into your business if you've got a sound business plan. Or if you've got a sound business plan, you can also look at getting some loans or some grants. So those are some of the things that we look at when you come and engage me to help you set up and launch your children's services home. So don't see the money as a barrier. Some people, what they've managed to do is they've initially started off with supported accommodation, and as they've been building their capital, as they've been reinvesting into their business, they've then launched into children's residential homes. That was the particular model that we took ourselves. We started off initially in supported accommodation, and then we moved on to children's residential homes. I think this has been touched initially by Godfrey, so I'm not going to dwell on this one too much, but I just want to highlight just some of the critical things that we need to consider here. So recruiting and retaining qualified staff. Critical appointments that you need to make. So within a residential children's home, you're looking at your registered manager and your responsible individual. Those are the two main key management positions that you need to fill. In supported accommodation, it's the registered service manager and it's the nominated individual. Fortunately, in children's, in supported accommodation, you could take both those roles. However, when you're looking at children's residential homes, those have to be two individual people. We had an experience in our children's residential home where we took on a manager who talked a good game. And on paper, she was absolutely brilliant. And of course, we're still setting up, so you don't always get the best candidates when you're registering your first home. And we managed to get somebody that we felt, at least for where we're going in the business, we thought that should do absolutely well and brilliantly. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case to be. And one of the challenges why we felt that didn't happen is because that leadership capability was not there. So when you're hiring, when you're looking at the person to hire for these roles, that leadership capability is so important. Unfortunately, this lady only had experience of being a deputy manager, on of which she hadn't really done a very good job at that from the previous place where she worked. And so being able to lead the staff, being able to work with the staff and really get them to meet the needs of the young children, unfortunately that didn't happen. So we learned a very harsh lesson on this particular point. And I would advise you, when you're looking at getting your registered service manager or your responsible individual, it's quite crucial that appointment that you make is so important. So do have people that maybe have got experience in this sector. They could be in an interview panel where they can help you. Have some of your children, if you're already operating, have some of the children on your interview panel so they can see whether that person can actually relate. So making sure you have the right appointments is absolutely critical. And the reason why I say that is because that person who's going to be the leader is the one that's going to craft the culture and the vision that's within your company. If they don't have a nurturing attribute to them, if they're not a compassionate person, if they actually don't have the child at heart, that will easily be seen. It will be seen by the team that she's leading, it will be seen by the children that are being supported. And those outcomes that you're trying to achieve, the needs of the children that you're trying to make sure that you meet, that won't happen. So that culture is so important. And one advice that I would like to probably share with those who are looking at wanting to start off, please don't take the risk of thinking, yes, I can simply be the registered manager, if you have not had experience in residential setting yourself. I've talked to so many people that say, you know what, if this person could easily do it, I can also do it. And it's not true when it comes to children's residential homes. You have to have that skill set, you have to have that experience. And you have to invest into your business. You have to be prepared to pay your manager 55,000, 60,000, or what it takes to actually get a good registered manager. So please don't let that dissuade you, and don't try and think that I can simply do it. It is a lot easier to, when you're looking at supported accommodation, if you've got the experience that's needed, and I know Nyasha is going to talk about actually applying for Ofsted and what it needs, but it's probably a lot easier to be able to, if you've got the 5 years experience in residential. That can easily be whether you've been a manager in a CQC provision or any residential setting and you've got that 5 years experience, and at least 2 of those years are in a management position. So it will be a lot easier for you to take up that role. But if that role is also new to you, then don't be afraid to also recruit. And with any regulated services, whether it's CQC or not, I'm sure a lot of you do know that you do have those stringent requirements of making sure that you are meeting all of the standards and the regulations that are needed within your sector. As I say, don't be afraid of this at all. I remember in October 2023, Ofsted was starting to look into regulating the 16 plus provision. Before that, there was no regulation, the 16 plus provision. And to me, I welcomed that. And the reason why I welcomed that is because when you have certain standards and certain regulations that you need to meet, it means firstly, those that are in business will actually be supporting those children properly. You will now be undercut by people that are charging, let's say, £500 a week to a local authority, when all in truly, they should be charging at least 1,200 a week. But we were being undercut by other people that were in this sector, not providing a good service to the young people at all. But obviously, local authorities, with their budgets, they want to just make sure they cut costs. So they will go to these providers because they say we can do this job for £600 a week. Yet it's something that needs to be done for about 1,300 or 1,500. So regulation is good. And what you need to make sure that you do for yourself is to put the codes there for you if you want to take the code there. What this is the Social Care Common Inspection Framework. Now this is just a framework which is used by the inspectors when they come to your provision and they come in inspecting, are you meeting the needs of the children that you have? So they use that as the framework. You need to know that as your Bible. You need to study that and make sure that you know if an inspector is coming to our provisions, what are the things that they're looking at? This is easily available on the government websites. There's a link there for you. This one is for supported accommodation. This one is for children's residential homes. And what we do within our provisions, we use this to do our own quality assurance inspections that we do quarterly. So we are preparing ourselves every time and seeing, are we actually meeting the needs of the young people that we're supporting? Are we meeting the needs of the children that we are supporting? And it's really good to get feedback. Feedback from the children you support, feedback from the young people that you support. Because one of the key things that I've found about how you can actually make sure that you stay compliant is always having an attitude where you are continuously learning by getting feedback from children, feedback from local authorities, feedback from parents, if parents are involved, or guardians, and that way you're continuously improving your service and you're meeting the needs of the children that you have. And so if you do that, that enables you now to make sure you meet those regulations and standards. So this is one of the tricks of making sure you remain compliant, and when you're doing that, that inevitably will mean that you'll start getting good and outstanding results. So when your inspections come, as it was mentioned earlier on, if you've got an outstanding, or if you've got an outstanding rating, then the local authorities will come to you. They'll want to work with you, and that's how you grow and develop your business. And finally, so if you do want to get hold of me, there's my contact details. Please feel free to scan that. It takes you direct to my pages, my social media pages. I also offer 20-minute free consultations on there. So it will take you to my Calendly link and you'll be able to have a discussion with me and we can see how I help you.